Hi guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how to update your Airtable database using WhatsApp. I'm Davy, I run autopilot.co, and we build cool automations for cool people. So with further ado, let's jump into it. So how does it work? Let's say right now I'm in WhatsApp, so I have my personal assistant right here. I'm going to do an audio. Can you please retrieve Bob's email from the database? So I'm going to send him this audio, and I'm hoping that he will be able to get this email address from my Airtable database. So just to show you a little bit, I have the Airtable database right here that's been set up. And I have here Bob, for example, with this email, a phone number, different type of data. And the idea is to be able to control and manage all of that from WhatsApp. So let's see what's going to happen. So I'm using WhatsApp as a trigger, but obviously you can build this entire automation using Slack, using Telegram. It's literally up to you. The idea is more to show you a little bit how to build a system like that, and hopefully you'll be able to use it as well. So now that we sent the WhatsApp, we're still waiting for the feedback. It takes a little while, but hopefully it will come very soon. Because it's an audio, there's an extra step that I will show you later about the trigger, which is we need to convert this audio. Here we go. So now we have the email address that's been retrieved. And this works as well with text messages. So right now I just did an audio, but I can just ask literally Bob to, I can ask like the assistant to edit Bob's record by changing the email address and the phone number. So I'm just going to send this. And basically what we currently have here is test@gmail.com plus the phone number right here. And we are going to update this. So this is what we're going to see right now. So it's just going to take every time a little few seconds to just check everything in the database. So it's normal. Unfortunately, right now, this is not exactly real time, but it still goes pretty fast. So right now we just add the confirmation that the record has been updated. And so if I go back to my database, I can see right now that the email address has been changed and the phone number as well. So now you get a better idea about what this automation is about. And I'm about to take you through each single step in order for you as well to be able to build this. Just to remember, this is part of a bigger project that I've been doing for a client of mine, which is a DJ. And I'm going to break down everything I've done through different videos. So this is one of the first videos about the Airtable part, but there's going to be more videos to follow. And we're going to link up everything together at the end, showing you the entire project and how we did it. So let's go back to this. So what is the tech stack needed to build this automation? So first of all, we need Airtable account. Obviously, we need a database. You'll be able to use the same concept, the same structure. If you have a Google Sheet or Excel, that could work as well. We need Relevance AI. So Relevance AI, it's the platform that allows us to build AI agent. So without needing to drop a line of code, we're going to use Make.com, WhatsApp, and Mate API. So you may have never heard of Mate API, but it's a third-party tool that will allow us to have a lot more functions when using WhatsApp. So it's an unofficial WhatsApp API that we'll be able to use with Make, WhatsApp, and Relevance AI. So that's going to be great for what we do. You can also use the official WhatsApp API if you want to. The only thing is, because of this project was much bigger than just this part right now, this tool made way more sense based on what we needed to do. So you are always obviously free to use the official WhatsApp API. The only thing is like you're going to be very limited in terms of functions. You can just get the text and the audio, which is going to be enough for this video, but you will not be able to perform a lot more than that without having to go through a thorough process. Anyway, so this is the tech stack that we're going to use. And what does the flow look like? So first of all, we have a trigger. So the trigger is the WhatsApp message that we are going to receive. So this, because we're using Mate API, we can keep the same number and we can literally write to ourselves. If you have a business number, then you can literally write to this business number and I will do the exact same thing. So in our case, we have WhatsApp as a trigger. This is WhatsApp that's going to start giving orders to this agent. And then we have this agent, which is, I call it the assistant, because his role is only to communicate with me. That's the only thing that he has to do, communicate with me and delegate tasks to sub-agent. And we have the sub-agent. So the sub-agent is used as a tool because it's a sub-agent for the assistant. And we equip the sub-agent with the Airtable API. So with this API, this sub-agent will be able to create a new record, to retrieve data from the database, but also to update a record like we just saw before. So how does it work? Let's start with the beginning with this automation. So the first thing that we need to do is to get access to Airtable API key. So that's what we're going to need. So the first thing to do is in Airtable right here, you can go in your account, go to the Builder Hub, and in the Builder Hub, you will be able to generate a personal access token, a personal key. So you can create a new token right here. You can name it. For example, I'm going to name it test. Define a scope. So what do you need to be able to do with this token? So I just put everything so I don't have to think too much about it. But obviously based on what you need. So the base schema, that's what you need to read and write. Here you have like the data and comments as well, read and write. So you need all of them. So you can just like add them all, add the access to the database that you want to. So I'm just going to add, let's say one, just to create the token, just to show you. So now if I create the token, now I have this token that I can copy. And here I'm just going to delete it because I don't need it, but I just copy the token and then I'm going to relevance.ai. And in relevance.ai, you have an integration part right here. And this is where you can add your API key in order to connect Relevance AI and Airtable. So here you'll be able to scroll down, add your custom key. So you can literally name it Airtable, Airtable token, for example, and you can literally copy paste it and save and you're good to go. So in my case, it has already been done. It's right here. So I will not need to do it again. So where do we start? The first thing that we start with Relevance AI is we need to build tool. We need to build a tool that we're going to equip the sub-agent with. So in order to build a tool, you can go directly to the tool menu right here. And I have already mine that's been built, that you'll be able to find the template as well on the Relevance AI because there's also a template available. I edited a little bit in order to fit with the need that I had. So how does it work? So before we dive into every single step, let me explain to you quickly how did I structure this tool, right? So this tool is basically the only tool that I have with Airtable APIs, which means that within this tool, the agent will be able to perform all the different tasks, retrieve, create, or update. Now, in order to make sure that this agent is not confused about what tool he should use or not, then I've added different type of inputs that will allow me to let him know exactly what I expect from him. So in terms of input, you need the base ID, table ID, a task, and a request. So the task is a single select drop-down menu when you can select directly the task that you want it to perform. This is something that I've created, and you can create it as well. Based on the list of APIs available on the developer documentation of Airtable, you can create the one that you want. So literally, if you want to add a feature that allows you to delete a record, this is where you can do it. So you just need to add the task. So this is just plain text. And then in the construction of your tool, this is where you're going to add the API to delete a record, for example. So in my case, I have update record, create a new record, or retrieve data, right? So all of those API, they are actually in my tool body. So here we can see the get record. Then we can see a bit further down, create a record. And then we can see update a table record. So I decided to put everything in the same place because I provide this extra condition, which is here to define the task that I want the agent to perform. So that will allow me to activate or deactivate certain APIs. So for example, if the request is about updating a record, here, our personal assistant will provide the word update in terms of task, and it will provide the request. And so because here for task, the name of this input is option, the variable is called option here, we will be able to target directly all the actions where option is equal to update, right? Or is not equal to something else. So for example, for the first one, if we want to update a record, the first thing that we need to do is to access the entire database, the list of records, and identify the record that we need. So that's going to be the first step. Once we have identified the record that we need, so we get the record ID, we're going to use this record ID to update the data that we want to update. But there's a step before this one, which is just create the structure of the data that we want to update. We can't just say, I want Bob's email to be test@gmail.com if we do not provide the right JSON structure in order to update it. Otherwise, we're going to have an error. So this is the step that we're going to have, for example, to update an Airtable record. One, we make sure that the task is about updating. Two, we find the record that we need to update based on the request. Three, we format the data in order to make the API call. And four, we make the API call and then we return the result. So this is for update a record. Now, if we want to create a record, what do we need? First of all, we need, based on the request, to be able to create a JSON output. So we need this JSON then to perform the request to create a record, right? And then we're going to ask the sub-agent to return the result. And if I want to retrieve information, what do I need? First, I need to call the entire records. I need to compare them against the request that I receive in order to identify the piece of info that I need. And then I need this piece of info to be returned to me so I can check it on WhatsApp, right? So basically, this is exactly what has been built here. So here we have the get record. So if options, which is here the name of this variable of the task, is not equal to create, then this is where we want to retrieve the entire list. So I use a negation here because if it's update, that works. If it's retrieve data, that works. So the only time where it doesn't work is when it's about to create something. We don't need to check the entire listing to create a new record. Maybe in your case, you will have to. So in this case, you will need to retrieve entirely the records and check if the user is already existing, for example. That's something that you can do. In my case, I don't need to do that. So I'm going then through the Spotify documentation, and I'm going to check the URL that has been provided in order to perform the list records request. So here I can see different things. One, the URL that I need to use, and second, the authorization, bearer, and the token that I need that I already implemented in my Relevance AI. So this is what has been done here. So you can see you choose the method. So the method is get. You can copy paste the URL directly here, replace the base ID, the table ID by the two input that we have here. And we find those data directly in your Airtable database. So in the URL here, you have like the base ID. Here you have the TBL, which is the table ID. Here's the view ID, but we don't need this one. And that's the two pieces of info, the two pieces of information that, and those are the information that we need to complete here in our input field, the task, and then the request, which is what I'm going to ask it to do. So once I've performed this, this request here, I'm receiving directly all the list of records, right? So because the task that I want to do is about updating a record, I'm going to use OpenAI API. And what I'm going to do now is try to find in these records the element that will allow me to identify what records need to be updated. So this entire prompt here is about to extract the key elements from my request in order to match them against the entire database and find which record am I talking about. So when I mention Bob's in my WhatsApp audio, then the system knows directly that I'm looking for Bob. So now it's about the record ID that contains Bob. Obviously, if you have a lot more users that have the same name or same whatever that is, in this case, you need to make sure to always provide a bit more info. So it will depend on your business case. In my case, there's not like millions of lines of records, so it's fine. But obviously, you need to pay attention to not get the wrong record or to use a different ID. If it's not someone else, it can be someone's surname. It's already less likely to find two identical records. If you know someone's email, you can use the email, you can use the phone number, you can use the company name, then you're free to use whatever you want. This is going to be the exact same process because we're just going to try to match the request with what has been extracted from the records. So I provide in this prompt, so the objective, the instruction for the agent, the logic, the output, and then I provide example about what I'm expecting. So the input is going to be a JSON because the input is going to be the result of what we have extracted before. So the entire record list. And the output needs to be just a plain text. So here I'm just specifically mentioning to the tool to return me only like a string, so a list of character, and making sure there's no formatting because I'm going to get the record ID from this request. And I'm going to need to use this record ID later on in order to update the right record, right? So once this has been done, I need to create the JSON model. So what's the JSON model? So the JSON model is the moment where if I needed to change Bob's email address, then I need to provide the email address in a format that Airtable can understand. Otherwise, the API call won't be able to perform. So this is what we do in this step. So once again, we're using OpenAI API, and based on the request that I've made to the agent, then we need to redefine exactly how we want to structure the answer. So what I did here is basically taking all the different columns name that you have and explaining what are they and what's the format of each of them. So for example, if I have a name is just plain text. However, an email has a particular structure. It has an @ for example, a phone number in this case is plain text. It makes it easier. But a date has a different format. So I can't push plain text to a date, otherwise I'm going to have an error, right? Here I have the different services, for example. In this case, this is a multi-select answer that I'm expecting. So I can't just push text, otherwise I'm going to have an error. This is what we do in this step right now. So we provide the objective, which is to extract the critical information and structure a JSON output from this text input, right? And then we define every single variable. So for example, the name, and name2 here. So we explain what it is, how you can find it, explain as well the format that it needs to have. So like here we have phone, for example. Here we have the wedding date where we provide the exact format that will be needed in order to perform this task and to be able to update everything. So this is what we do for every single line in this prompt, right? So I'm not going to go further in it. I think you get the point. And then we provide an example about what the JSON structure looks like. So this is what I need as an output in order to be able to update this record. So once he's going to perform the task, I'm going to ask him to provide the data that we need to update in this format. And once I have this, I will be able to use it to make the API call. So then the API call comes after that. So all of those steps, they have a condition. So here we can see option equals update. So that's how I know as soon as I'm going to make a request based on the word that's been used, only those specific step of this tool will be used. So there's no risk that the agent will create something if I ask him to update a record, because he will not even have access to the creating API because of the first word, the keyword that we provided initially. So in this one, we're using the method patch. So all of this is literally what you can find here when you want to update the record. For example, I didn't make it up. It's right here. So it's return patch. You have the URL, and then you need to replace every variable by what we currently have set up. So patch method, you copy paste your URL link right here. You replace the variable by the inputs that we have. And one of the inputs is a dynamic variable, because right here it's written that we need to provide the record ID, and we have the record ID from the previous request, remember? So that's what we're going to implement here at this particular place. And we're going to copy paste as well the JSON structure that we had to create it in order to make this API call work. And the JSON structure is coming from the previous step right here, which is the JSON record update. So I just put it here as a body, so raw body. And I know this because this is what's written right here. So I just can see this part is the body, right? And there is nothing particular that we have to do. So this is just raw, and I just already provided the JSON structure. So the JSON is what you can see right now between the brackets right here, between the accolades right here. And right now, we've just seen how to do the update record. So now let's say you want to do the retrieve record. So retrieve record, what do we have? So the first thing that we're going to do is retrieve all the records. So that's what we have here. So that's why it does not equal create. So retrieve works. And once we have retrieved the entire records, then we need to identify the piece of information that we need from these records, right? So here I have the get info by record. So once again, I'm calling the OpenAI API. So I have a condition here, which is options equal retrieve. And in this prompt, I'm explaining that based on the request that we have, that we made, you need to find the key elements that will allow us to respond to this question based on the record that we just retrieved. And that's what he does. So here, the example is he has as an input, he has the entire record list, so database. But as an expected output, for example, I just have 250 because what I asked for was like, what is Bob's deposit, for example. So that's it. That's simple. That's just a prompt that we've been structured. So it's like input, logic, the output expected, providing example, and mentioning the request as well, because we need to match it against the request that we made before. And then it's going to return the answer. As simple as that. And the last one, which is about creating a new record. So we keep the same steps, which is we are going to directly create the JSON model. So this is where the flow starts right now. So we can see options equal create. And now we explain how we want this JSON to be structured. So the explanation here is the same, almost the same as the one to update, because when you want to update, you still need to have this JSON output in order to make it work. But when you want to create, you literally need this JSON output in order to add a new record. So this is the same thing. The only difference mostly here, it's the beginning. It's like the task here is to create, and the objective for create is to generate JSON input that we're going to use in the API, and then to identify the key information. And then we explain what kind of information the tool will be able to find, the model will be able to find. And based on those info, we ask him to fill up the JSON right here, and providing the output that is expected in this format right here, right? And then that's it. The only thing is we just want to make sure that we are going to have something that we can use. So it's very important that even a comma in your JSON output can create an error. So you need to make sure that everything comes back as a plain JSON without any extra markdown or any extra signs. And this is what we put here as a critical output formatting requirement, is making sure that we have something that we can use fully without any additional elements, because OpenAI tend to always add some markers down or some specific element to JSON output that we don't want to see in our request, right? And so what we have at the end is the last step, which is the output that we want. So basically, based on the word that we're going to use, either we create, we update, or we retrieve. So we have different outputs. So in this case, what we do here is we're going to select manually the different outputs that we want. And we'll be able here to just add an output. So right here, and we select the result of the steps that we are interested in order to get the result that we need and provide the right answer. So this is the main part of the tool. So this is probably the most complex part because this is what we need to get right in order to have this agent performing the task. We just add the little description about what this tool is about. So get data, update, and create records in Airtable. And we can provide the little prompt here to explain the agent how it's going to use it. And once it's done, we just have to save. And we have now created this tool, which is the Airtable toolkit. And now we need to create the agent that's going to manage this tool. So if you have a very simple case, or you don't need more agents, you just need to be able to perform this task by itself, you don't really need another agent. You can directly give this tool to your personal assistant and it will directly perform the task. In my case, this is part of a bigger project where I will have to add several agents for different tasks. So I'm not interested in equipping one specific agent with 1,000 tools. I rather have one agent dedicated per tool so I make sure everything is going to be performed well. We're using different LLM element in each flows, so we still have a part that is not always consistent. And I just want to reduce the risk to get like a different result than the one expected by just separating every tool per agent. So what we're going to do now is create a sub-agent and equip this sub-agent with this tool. So what we're going to do, first of all, this agent has already been created. So I'm just going to show you how I did it. So this is the Airtable manager right here. So the Airtable manager needs to be able to retrieve data, create a new record, or update a record in Airtable. That's the only task that I give it to him. If he can perform this at the higher level, then I'm super happy. That's all I need. So now I'm going to provide him core instructions. So this is where I'm going to give him exactly all the steps that I want him to take in order to make this task possible and to succeed as much as possible. So the first thing is I'm going to define the role and objective. So retrieving, adding, and updating existing records. Then I'm going to provide him with the tool. So I explain to him what is the tool about. So search, retrieve, add, update. That's everything they can do with the tool. Then the key principle is to always report to Masanga. So Masanga is the personal assistant. So we give him a little name. So then that makes it a bit more fun. And then we give him a task checklist. So the task checklist is something that I always do because I don't want to have surprises. So I just want to make sure that when the task is about retrieving info, this is what you have to do. 1, receive the request. 2, search the database. If a matching record is found, then do this. If no record is found, then do that. And always is return the answer to the personal assistant, right? And because we're creating this kind of filter with the keywords that allow us to always know what kind of task will be performed by this agent, so we can elaborate on each task and define exactly what would be expected. So for example, the create or add record, you receive the request, you add the record, and you report to Masanga, right? We don't need to go more into details about how to create a record because we already provided all the data within the tool itself. Updating a record is the same thing. You receive the request, you update the record, and then you report. And that's the only piece of info that we need right now in this case to make it work. Then in Flow Builder, I didn't put anything because there's not much more complexity. We already use this keyword to define what API needs to be called or not. So we don't need to add more than that. The tool, so here we just gave him access to the Airtable toolkit. So the approval mode is auto run. We can obviously make it, if you want to check, you can definitely make approval required, but I didn't think that was necessary in this case. This is not like a compromising information. So you can always correct doing an audio or text message in WhatsApp in case there were like any issue. So it's on auto run. And there's not sub-agent because this is the sub-agent of a personal assistant. And then we have the configure template where you can define variables and explain exactly what you expect. So that help also the personal assistant to identify exactly what kind of data does he need to provide to this sub-agent in order for him to perform this task. So in our case, we need the request. So the request that I made through WhatsApp, I made it through to the personal assistant. But the personal assistant need to forward this request to the right agent. So we just want to make sure that he get this right by transferring entirely this request to this sub-agent. So that's what we put here. It's the task that needs to be performed. And here is called long text. And this is basically what we've been using through the tool to explain exactly what's in this request and what do we need to match against the record. So once it's done, then we have now a sub-agent equipped with the Airtable toolkit. And now the only thing that is left is to assign this sub-agent to the personal assistant. So the personal assistant is right here. And right now you will see that there's a lot of stuff going on with this guy because he has a lot of tasks to do. But we're just going to focus on one little thing right now, which is managing the sub-agent that is responsible for Airtable. So the first thing that we do with the personal assistant is defining his role. So agent name here, we put Masanga and we say you are his personal assistant. And then we define his role. So it's to manage the task efficiently, right? And then we provide core instructions. So once again, this is a little bit what we did before, but in a much more complex way, because this time we need to add this tool, but this personal assistant has a lot more tools. So we need to elaborate a bit more about all the tools that we have and about everything that is capable of doing. So here, for example, we define who's Iris. So then he can have a little bit of context about who is working for, right? Then we give him all the tools. So for this video, the only one that we're interested in this one is the Airtable manager. So that's the name of the sub-agent. So we name the sub-agents. So here by doing a little slash, you can go to tool, select the sub-agent, and that help him understand even better who is who and who's doing what. So that's what we've been doing here, define each element, giving a little definition about what it is. And then we start with the SOP, the standard operating procedure. So we tell them exactly what needs to happen for every task. Doesn't matter what it is, if it's Airtable or not. We always need him to confirm that he did receive the task, then to look for the right sub-agent. So here we define even more what they're doing, what's the role of each of them. So for example, the Airtable manager for user info, retrieving, adding, creating records, make sure to include Iris request as one of the input. So we provide a bit more details about it. Then how does the delegation to sub-agent work? So here, the structure breakdown, sequential delegation, continue with subsequent task, and use appropriate tools. So we explain a little bit all of this. Then how to communicate the result. So we always have to ask him to provide the input in a specific language. So we can define the language that we want. Because this case was for French customer, then we use French language, but we can change the language to reuse this template by English if needed. And we have also equipped this personal assistant with a tool, which is WhatsApp. And that's why we're mentioning here in this core instruction to always use this tool in order to report to the user what the task that has been performed. So that's super important to do that. And we always add as well the key points to remember, right? Because it's like those AI model, they tend to forget. Those AI agents tend to forget what needs to be performed. So we always need to remind them what needs to be done. And then I'm adding to this core instruction, I'm adding a specific part where I define every task that he will have to perform. So basically, here I've made a breakdown of different tasks, one based on Airtable and some on other tools. And for the one based on Airtable, here what we're going to do is task number 1, a user information request. So retrieve data, create a record, or update a record. That's what you can have as a user information request, right? Now we give him like the overall step that he has to do. delegating like to the Airtable manager, providing the request, and returning all the results using WhatsApp. And now we break down the task. So if it's about retrieving information, identify the task, delegate to the Airtable manager, then wait for the response. Then if the data is found, then report it. If data is not found, then ask more questions using WhatsApp about how to find it. So that's what we do. We do the same thing here. We create or add a record. That's what we've been doing. It's kind of the same thing. So we follow exactly the same steps. And update record is the same thing. We identify the request. We delegate to the Airtable manager. We wait for the response. And then we notify Iris about it. We don't need to go further down into what needs to be performed because we've done it through the tool. And we also already explained it to the sub-agent. So they already know what you have to do. For the personal assistant, we just want to make sure it's going to delegate this task to the right agent. And then the other agent will take over. Now, in terms of flow builder, because this personal assistant has a lot more tool, a lot more agent that is responsible for, we have to build a flow builder in order to help him understand a little bit what needs to be performed. So in this case, the Airtable manager is here in this condition. So the first step right here is, based on the request that you receive, identify the right agent to delegate the task to. So after that, we have all the conditions which going to explain what kind of task did you receive. So any specific question regarding user information should be delegated to the Airtable manager. And all tasks related to Airtable, such as retrieving, adding, or creating records. So that's it. Now it's very clear. If your request is about this, then this is what you have to do. Then you delegate the task to the Airtable manager, make sure you provide him the request, and then you return the request using WhatsApp. There you go. So then we have provided this agent with the send WhatsApp message. So I'm not going to cover the other tools because they're not needed for this particular video. But the send WhatsApp message is very important because that's the tool that is going to use to report to me directly. So for this tool, let's check it out. For this tool, there's different input. One is the message. That's what we need, the message. What do we want to send? The second is the phone, right? So the phone number that we need to send this message to. And then is the group ID. So the group is, because this tool is going to be used across different agents, sometimes the agent will report to me directly, so he just needs my phone number, but sometimes he can report to a WhatsApp group, which was the reason why I've been using Mate API in order to be able to create WhatsApp groups, which the official WhatsApp API can't do. And for this reason, when you have a group, then you need to provide a different type of ID in order to perform this request to send a message to the entire group. So that's the reason why we have it here as an input. And then we have the different API calls that needs to be made. So one that is if group is not empty, which means if you received an ID, then he's going to use this one. And if phone is not empty, then he can use this one because that means that we just need to send a message to one individual. In order to perform this API call, we need to use Mate API. So that's what we've been using. So Mate API is this tool right here. And this is where you will be able to log in to your WhatsApp and then have access to a lot more elements. So just to give you a quick overview, you have the documentation here, but just to give you an idea, you can create groups, you can set webhooks, you can send messages. There's a lot of tasks that you can perform that you can't do with the official WhatsApp API. But once again, it's up to you if you want to use it or not based on your business case. But there's a lot that can be done. So when you are in Mate API, there's 3 key elements that you will need. So after you scan your phone in order to connect your WhatsApp web, here is the phone ID. You will need that element. Then you have the product ID right here. And then you have the token, right? So the token is the API key. So like we did with Airtable, you need to copy it and you need to add it to the integration part and create a new line where you have here all the elements. So for example, In my case, I put the product ID here, the token here, and the phone ID, I put it here. So phone ID and product ID, they're not really secret, but I still don't want to have to deal with that all the time. So I just save them as variable right here. And then I just need to do like we did with Airtable, which is find the documentation about the API that I want to call. So in my case, right now, I'm interested in the API to send a message. So I'm using the different elements that have been mentioned in the documentation. So let's check it out. Send a message. So this is how the structure works, right? So you need to be able to provide here the product ID, right? Then you need the phone ID right here. And then the last slash, which is send a message. So this is what we have done here. So the send a message. So we just replace every time the variable by the right thing. Then we have the key. So the key has this particular structure right here, but we need to use the token, which is like one of the info that we saved as well as a variable. So this is what's going to allow us to authenticate the request. And then we have the JSON object right here. So this is the part that we have here. So we can see directly what it looks like. And here, this is where we need to replace those variables by what we want to send to who we want to send it to, right? So that's what we did here. And then to number, and we'll replace this by the group, for example, in this case. So which is this input, because we are in this particular step. Now, if you just want to send a normal message here, we can see that this is not group anymore. This is phone. So we put the phone in order to replace this variable by the phone number. The type of message is text. And then here in the message, we are going to provide the text that we want to send. So the message will be filled by the agent himself in order to communicate with us, right? And the output is literally just the status that confirms that the API went through. So that's why our agent, our assistant has been equipped with. And, and now we also need to give him access to sub-agent. So in the sub-agent, we just added the Airtable manager right here. The Airtable manager is on auto run. And we provide a little prompt about when to use this agent. So this is a little bit of a recap about what we put in the prompt. So basically, to add a record, to retrieve records, to update records, that's where you need this guy. And then we define the variables. So the variables, they will allow us to define already what type of info we want to provide. So remember task when you have create, retrieve, update. So this is where we put it. So you go to the personal assistant profile, you go to sub-agent, and when you click on sub-agent here, you can add a variable. So you add it here, task, and you explain exactly what needs to be done with task. So here we explain directly what we want. If the request involves finding data, use retrieve. If the request involves adding a new user to Airtable, use create. And every time, the only thing that we expect is one word as output, and that will allow the sub-agent to perform the right task. So because we have defined here explicitly what we want, and that can only be one of those three values right here, right? Create, retrieve, or update. So that's what we do. And then we have the request. So what needs to be done? Then the table ID. So in this case, we don't need to have a variable. We just need to directly tell him what we want as a value, because we need to update only one specific record. If you have a case where you have a lot more records, a lot more database to update, and not necessarily only one, you have to explain exactly which database he needs to find in order to perform the task. Then we have the base ideas. That's the same thing, right? And we have additionally here different elements. So I mentioned the language, like all of this was made in order to respond in French. So I have created a variable here where I can change the language, which means that every time I needed to precise or specify that the message would be in French, I added the variable name language. And now here I can replace English by French if I want to. the phone number here that can be used to perform the WhatsApp message to report back. And when you look at in the core instruction, you can see language is here. You can see the WhatsApp is here. And basically that's the kind of information that you can update from here. It will update the entire prompt. So I hope it's kind of clear regarding the implementation. I try to make it like concise enough and not spend too much time, but also not going too fast. All right. So now we've covered the implementation of the system within Relevance AI. There's one part that I haven't covered yet, which is the trigger. So what is the trigger? So the trigger is happening in make. So let's go directly to make. So the trigger is literally what's going to start this entire automation, right? And in this case, it was WhatsApp. So the trigger has been built for WhatsApp, but you can replace the WhatsApp API call by any other tool that you would like. So we're just going to jump right now quickly into make.com, and I'm going to show you how it works. So the first thing that we did is build a webhook. So the webhook is literally what's going to analyze all the text messages that you're going to receive. And then we add a filter. So the filter here will allow us to say, I just want to filter the messages coming from this phone ID and where the conversation name is phone. So I'm able to do this because here I can see the conversation name is phone, and this is the phone with myself. And for the phone ID, this is what you will find directly in API right here. So you have the ID. So this is some element that you can find in this webhook when you receive a message. Once you've set up the filter, you just make sure that only those messages are going through. And now you're able to set up multiple variables. So those variables that I set up here is the agent ID and the conversation ID. So why do I do this? So when a request has been performed to my agent, here I have a URL where I can find the conversation ID, for example, right here. That's the conversation ID. And I also have the agent number in the URL. So if I go back to this, I can see that the agent ID is before. So if I take my URL, it's right here. This is the agent ID. This part is the agent ID. And the last one of the URL is my conversation ID. And it's very, very important to mention the conversation ID, because if you don't do that, every time you're going to send a request, it's going to respond to you in the same WhatsApp channel. However, when you are going to respond for the next message, you're going to create a new conversation in Relevance AI. So if you do not do that here, you're going to have a long conversation going on. And every time the agent's going to think that that's a new request that you make. So this is very important to always include the conversation ID in the request when you want to send a message. So this, I define those two variables just right here, because then based on the different type of input that I'm going to get in WhatsApp, it doesn't matter, but I still need to speak to the same conversation. Whether I chat to him using a message or an audio, I still want him to receive the same element every time. So I can either complete a request that I made or ask a new request, but I just want it to land at the same place. So once we have those variables, we use a router. So the router will help us to define what type of media am I sending through WhatsApp. So here I have a first filter, which is message type is text. Here I have a different filter where message type is PTT. So that will work for the voice note. And here I have another one, which is either the message MIME is audio /MP4 or it's audio. And this will allow me to send a document, like a recording of a conversation or whatever that is. So you might need to add a new client to the database, but you can't just be on the phone while you're having this meeting. So for example, you can just record the entire conversation, leaving your phone there. And once you have this entire recording, you can submit it through WhatsApp, and your agent will extract all the data coming from this conversation in order to fill up a new record and add it to your Airtable database. But that's very important to mention the different format, because if you use the voice note, that will not work. And then what's happening? So when the message is a text, we just make a simple API call. So here we can trigger our agent. So how do we do that? First, we add a key auth request module. So that will allow us to put our API key. So you can generate all of those elements directly here. So let me select this agent. So this is the personal assistant that we have, and we can build our own trigger using the API. So that's what I do. This is the URL that I need. I can generate a key. So I'm going to copy this element and I'm going to use it. So here I can see what the key looks like is authorization and then the API key. So I can just literally copy paste it, go in make.com, add this module, and here I can literally add, so the authorization name parameter name here, then the key, copy paste here, right? Copy paste the URL. This is a post method because I'm pushing data to this guy. The body type is raw JSON, and then I need to literally copy paste what I had here, which is this structure right here. So that's the structure that I need. I can see. And basically, I'm going to update the structure with the elements that I need my own variable. So first of all, the message. So the message is coming directly from the webhook, but I need to update the agent ID with the variable that I set up and the conversation ID, right? Now, if it's not text, if it's audio, then I have two extra steps. So the first one is to get the file. So I need to download the file, whether it's a voice note or a file. I need to download it first from the webhook. So that's what I've been doing here. Then what I'm going to do is literally implementing a ChatGPT module. So from the file that I've been downloading, I'm going to use the file name and add the extension .ogg and the file data directly. So that's what I'm going to do. So the file data is right here. And once I do this, I can literally confirm. I'm just adding the prompt, which is you're an expert in transcribing audio to text, right? Simple as that. And we are going to wait for the answer. Once we have the answer, we make the API call right here. So to the agent. So that's the exact same API code that we have here. The only difference is we're going to change the variable here about the content by the text that we just received from ChatGPT. For the documents, this is the same thing. It's exactly the same process. So we just this time download like using the URL, and it's going to be the exact same thing. The difference here is .m4a. So that's the format that we have. So if you have different type of documents, that you can add different extension. The most important is making sure the extension they matching with what is required by the ChatGPT module, the OpenAI module. Then you make the API request, and that's going to trigger our agent one more time. So that's it for the trigger. Hopefully I cover it all. So if you have different cases, that you'll be able to tackle them all. So now let's talk about the budget. So for Airtable, you have access to a free plan. Relevance AI, you also have access to a free plan. I think it's up to 100 credit a day. You have make.com, where you can also have access to a free plan. I think you're limited to 2 automations, but that should be fine in our case. You have WhatsApp for free and Made API, which is the connector that costs $29 a month. Now you can get rid of Made API using WhatsApp official API if you just have a case with text or audio. So that's literally what you can do. You can also change the trigger. Right now I'm showing you with WhatsApp, but the concept remains the same if you want to use something else. And just to finish the takeaway. So first of all, you will need a trigger. So whatever channel that you feel comfortable using, in this case is WhatsApp. Then you need to build the tool that you will use within Relevance AI. So in our case, that was Airtable. We made sure to always use one keyword in order to map out exactly the steps that we wanted the agent to take when he used this tool, right? And we always make sure as well to equip a personal assistant with a WhatsApp tool in order to report to us. And that's how we've been able to build this automation. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe, comment, put a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you have any idea, any cool automation that you want to build, then feel free to let me know in the comment. Take care. So take care.